The crimson desert of Solaris Prime stretched endlessly under twin blazing suns, its barren surface broken only by the scattered dwellings of Haven Colony. Among the weathered structures, a 13-year-old human boy with sandy hair knelt beside a collection of salvaged components, his nimble fingers working despite the oppressive heat. "Marcus, stay close to the compound," his mother called from their modest shelter. "The sandstorms are getting worse." "I will, Mom," Marcus Chen replied without lifting his eyes from his project. The boy had spent the last 3 years on this desolate world since his father, Captain David Chen, disappeared during a deep space reconnaissance mission. The Galactic Union had declared him missing, presumed lost, leaving Marcus and his mother Alina among the few human refugees in this struggling frontier settlement. Marcus carefully connected a series of copper tubes to a makeshift filtration unit. The colony's inhabitants, primarily Zephyrians with their pale blue skin and crystalline hair, guarded humans with polite distance. All except Vera, the teenage daughter of their closest neighbor. Building another contraption, Dustwalker. The familiar voice carried a note of affection despite the teasing words. Marcus looked up to see Vera Kristen standing at the edge of their yard. At 17, she possessed the typical Zephyrian grace, her translucent hair catching the light of the twin suns. Her fitted environmental suit bore the silver insignia of her family's merchant guild. "It's a moisture extraction device," Marcus explained, holding up his creation. "Or it will be once I solve the power coupling issue." Vera approached, her crystalline eyes examining his work with genuine curiosity. Despite their 5-year age difference, she never treated him as merely a child. "You humans and your endless modifications. The communal wells have served our people for generations." "The wells are failing," Marcus said seriously. "The water table has dropped 15 meters in the past year alone. Everyone knows it, but no one wants to admit it." Vera crouched beside him, her slender fingers tracing the device's framework. "And this pile of salvage will solve our crisis." "Maybe," Marcus replied, connecting another component. "If I can stabilize the energy matrix." Their colony of mixed Zephyrian and human refugees had been established in one of Solaris Prime's harshest regions, partly because the more hospitable zones were controlled by established Zephyrian city-states, and partly because few believed Haven Colony would survive its first decade. 9 years later, they endured barely. "Father mentioned the council is considering another relocation," Vera said, picking up a discarded power cell. "The northern territories have better groundwater." "We can't keep running," Marcus said firmly. "There has to be a way to make this work here." As the twin suns began their descent, Marcus continued his work by artificial light. Gra remained beside him, handing him tools and components with the easy familiarity of years of friendship. "Pass me that plasma coil," Marcus requested, pointing to a glowing green component. "This one?" Vera lifted it carefully. "Where did you find it?" "The scrapyards behind the trading depot," Marcus answered. "It's from a decommissioned Viridian. Transport. The power output should be perfect for what I need." As he made the final connections, the device hummed to life. Indicator lights flickered across its surface, displaying readings in both human and Zephyrian numerals. "Did it work?" Vera asked skeptically as the device emitted a low vibration. Her doubt faded as a fine mist began emerging from the collection chamber. Water droplets condensed and gathered in a small reservoir at the base of the unit. "That's impossible," Vera whispered, staring at the accumulating water. "The atmospheric humidity here is too low for standard condensation technology." "Not with these modifications," Marcus said proudly. "I recalibrated the molecular separators to extract hydrogen and oxygen from trace compounds in the air, then synthesize them into water." Vera's eyes widened. "You're creating water from atmospheric elements. That's advanced environmental engineering. How did you learn books?" "Mostly," Marcus shrugged. and lots of trial and error. They watched as the reservoir slowly filled with clear, pure water. It wasn't much, perhaps a liter, but it represented something extraordinary. Vera said slowly, "Do you understand what you've accomplished? This could revolutionize our entire colony." The boy looked at his invention, then at the harsh landscape surrounding them. For the first time in years, he felt genuine hope. "We'll need to scale it up significantly," he said. "Much bigger." Neither of them realized that this moment would not only transform their struggling colony, but would eventually attract the attention of those who would stop at nothing to control such revolutionary technology as the twin suns set over Haven Colony. Marcus and Vera sat together, watching the small device continue its miraculous work, unaware that they had just altered the course of their world forever. Chapter 2. The Council's Decision the following morning. Marcus and Vera stood before the Colony Council in the converted cargo bay that served as their meeting hall. The space was filled with curious colonist humans, Zephyrians, and a few other species who had found refuge on Solaris Prime. Elder Korath, the senior Zephyrian council member, stroked his silver beard skeptically. "You claim this device can produce water from our atmosphere. Many have attempted similar projects. All have failed." Councilwoman Rodriguez, representing the human colonists, leaned forward. "Let the boy demonstrate, Korath. We have nothing to lose by observing." Marcus stepped forward, cradling his invention carefully. "It doesn't simply extract moisture, honored council members. It breaks down atmospheric compounds and reconstructs them into pure water. Theory means little when stomachs are empty and throats are dry." Elder Korath said dismissively. Vera placed an encouraging hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Show them," she whispered. With steady hands, Marcus activated the device. The familiar hum filled the room, drawing surprised murmurs from the crowd. Within moments, water began collecting in the reservoir. "Extraordinary," one council member breathed. "It must be some kind of illusion." Another protested. Councilwoman Rodriguez approached and gestured to the water. "May I?" Marcus nodded. Rodriguez dipped her finger into the liquid and tasted it. Her expression transformed. "Pure, cleaner than anything from our wells." The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. Council members huddled together in urgent discussion. Elder Korath's expression remained cautious, but hope flickered in his crystalline eyes. "What is the daily yield?" he asked. "This prototype produces approximately 3 liters per day," Marcus explained. "But with proper materials and expansion, a larger version could generate enough for irrigation and consumption." The council erupted. In excited discussion, Councilwoman Rodriguez raised her hand for silence. "The boy requires resources," she announced. "Components, tools, assistants. Who will contribute?" Volunteers raised their hands throughout the room. For the first time since arriving on Solaris Prime, Marcus felt truly accepted by the community. "I'll need to salvage parts from the western ruins," Marcus said. "There's an abandoned research facility with recoverable technology." Elder Korath's expression darkened. "The western ruins are treacherous. Magnetic storms, unstable structures, dangerous wildlife. No place for a child." "I'll accompany him," Vera volunteered immediately. "You're barely an adult yourself," her father, Councilman Kristen, protested. "I'm 17, Vera countered. Zephyrian custom. I've been considered mature for 2 cycles. The debate continued, but necessity ultimately prevailed. The colony desperately needed water, and Marcus's invention offered their first real hope in years. A small expedition was organized. Marcus, Vera, and 2 adult guards would venture to the western ruins the following day. As they left the council hall, Vera pulled Marcus behind a storage unit, her eyes bright with excitement. "We succeeded," she said, embracing him warmly. Marcus stiffened momentarily. Physical affection wasn't common between their species, but then relaxed into her arms. "We haven't succeeded yet," he reminded her. "We still need to construct the full-scale version." Vera pulled back, her hands still resting on his shoulders. "You're always so serious," she teased. "You should celebrate. You're a hero, Marcus Chen." Something in her tone made his cheeks flush. At 13, he was still uncomfortable with attention, especially from someone as confident and beautiful as Vera. She seemed to notice his discomfort and smiled mischievously. "What's wrong, Dustwalker? Nervous about tomorrow's expedition?" "No." He lied, focusing on his device. "Just thinking about the components we'll need." Vera laughed, the sound like crystal chimes in the desert air. "You humans always mask your emotions behind practicality, and you Zephyrians are always so direct," he countered. "Is that problematic?" she asked, stepping closer. Before he could answer, his mother's voice called out across the yard. "Marcus, help me prepare dinner." Vera stepped back, still smiling. "Tomorrow, then?" dawned at the western gate. As she walked away, Marcus couldn't help but notice the graceful way she moved. Something was changing between them, something he didn't fully understand but found both frightening and thrilling. That night, as he packed his tools and prepared for the expedition, Marcus realized that his invention might not be the only thing transforming in Haven Colony. The way Vera had looked at him today felt different, as if she were seeing not just the boy he was, but the man he might become. Chapter 3. Journey to the Western. Ruins. The western ruins stretched before them like the skeleton of some ancient civilization. Marcus shielded his eyes against the morning sun, scanning the horizon for signs of the research facility. Beside him, Vera adjusted her pack, her crystalline hair now hidden beneath a protective hood. "The facility should be beyond that ridge," said Kane, one of their Zephyrian guards, pointing to a distant formation. The second guard, a stocky human named Torres, checked his water supply. "We need to move quickly. Magnetic storms typically hit this region by midday." They had been traveling for nearly 5 hours. Haven Colony long since disappeared behind them. Marcus's excitement about finding new components had gradually given way to cautious alertness as they ventured deeper into unknown territory. "Wait," Vera whispered suddenly, grasping Marcus's arm. "Movement at 2 o'clock." The group froze, hands moving instinctively to their weapons. From behind a cluster of crystalline formations, several figures emerged. Tall, lean beings with rust-colored skin and intricate tattoos covering their faces. They wore garments made from what appeared to be woven mineral fibers, perfectly camouflaged against the rocky backdrop. Solari, Kane muttered. "Desert nomads. Unpredictable. Hostile." Torres asked quietly. "Sometimes territorial," Kane replied. The nomads approached cautiously, energy staffs held at the ready. Their leader, distinguished by more elaborate facial markings, stepped forward. "You trespass on Solari hunting grounds," he announced in accented standard. "State your purpose or return to your settlement." Marcus stepped forward, despite Torres's warning gesture. "I'm Marcus Chen, from Haven Colony. We're searching for components in the old research facility to build a water generator." The leader's eyes narrowed. "Water generator. You claim to create water?" "Not create," Marcus clarified. "Synthesize from existing atmospheric elements." "I can demonstrate." A murmur passed through the nomads. The leader studied Marcus with newfound interest. "I am Chief Solarn of the Eastern Solari. Show us this synthesis." With steady hands, Marcus unpacked his prototype. The familiar hum drew curious looks from the nomads as they gathered closer. When water began collecting in the reservoir, gasps of astonishment rippled through the group. Chief Solarn's expression remained guarded, but his eyes betrayed his amazement. "The young maker creates water from air. Remarkable. We need additional." Components to build a larger version, Marcus explained. For our colony. The chief conferred briefly with his advisors in their native tongue before turning back to the group. The facility you seek is dangerous and stable structures, ancient security systems, but we know safe paths. He paused. We will guide you. In exchange for knowledge of your watermaking, Torres and Kane exchanged concerned glances, but Vera stepped forward. We accept your offer, Chief Solarn, she said with a formal bow that seemed to please the nomads. The Solari led them on a winding path through the ruins, avoiding unstable ground and defunct security grids that would have been impossible to identify without their guidance. As they traveled, Chief Solarn walked alongside Marcus, asking detailed questions about his invention. Our ancestors speak of a time when Solaris Prime was verdant, the chief explained. Before the Great Drought, they preserved knowledge of water finding and plant cultivation. Your people have survived here for generations, Marcus observed. You must know this planet better than anyone. The chief nodded. We read the stones, we listen to the wind. We know where life endures. By midday, they reached a sheltered canyon where the Solari had established a temporary camp. Women and children emerged from tents woven from the same mineral-colored fibers as their clothing. We rest here, Chief Solarn announced. Continue to the facility tomorrow. That evening, around a small fire fueled by crystalline fuel cells, the Solari shared their provisions, a surprisingly flavorful stew made from desert plants and small reptiles, as they ate. An elderly woman approached Marcus and Vera. I am Tysa, Keeper of Seeds, she introduced herself, her face a map of wrinkles and tribal markings. Chief Solarn says you make water bloom from air. Something like that, Marcus smiled. The old woman studied him intently. Human innovation, always. Surprising. She turned to Vera. You choose well, young Zephyrian. Human bonds bring strong spirit. Vera choked on her stew, her blue skin darkening with embarrassment. We're not. He's not we're friends, Marcus interjected, feeling his own face. Flush, Tysa laughed. A sound like wind through crystal caves. The heart knows before the mind accepts. She reached into a pouch at her waist and withdrew a handful of what looked like seeds. These are dormant food plants adapted to Solaris Prime before the Great Drought. With your water, perhaps they will grow again. Later, as the camp settled for the night, Marcus and Vera found themselves sitting apart from the others, examining the seeds by the light of Solaris Prime's larger moon. Do you think they'll actually grow? Vera asked. With sufficient water and proper conditions, possibly, Marcus replied. The Solari have survived here for generations. Their knowledge could be invaluable. Vera was quiet for a moment, then said, What Tysa said earlier about us, ... Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Zephyrians and humans don't usually, ... Some do, Vera said softly. It's not common, but it happens. Their eyes met in the moonlight, and Marcus was suddenly aware of how close they were sitting, of the subtle scent of crystal flowers that always seemed to cling to Vera's skin. We should get some rest, he said finally, breaking the moment. Tomorrow will be challenging, as they returned to their separate sleeping areas. Marcus couldn't help but wonder if Tysa had seen something between them that he himself was only beginning to recognize, a connection that transcended their different species and backgrounds. 9 years later, the morning sun cast a golden glow over Haven Colony, though Colony no longer seemed an appropriate name for what had become the most prosperous community in the sector. Rows of irrigated fields stretched outward from the central hub, bursting with crops adapted from the Solari's ancient seed stock. Massive water generators, evolved versions of Marcus's original design, hummed steadily at strategic points throughout the community, pulling moisture from the air and feeding it into an intricate irrigation system. Marcus Chen, now 22 years old, stood atop the observation platform of the main water facility, surveying the community he'd helped transform. No longer the scrawny 13-year-old tinkerer, he had grown into a tall, broad-shouldered man with calloused hands and sun-bronzed skin. His sandy hair was still perpetually windswept, but his once boyish features had sharpened into a rugged handsomeness that drew attention from both human and Zephyrian women. "Admiring your handiwork again," a familiar voice called from behind him. Marcus turned to see Vera approaching, her crystalline hair gleaming in the sunlight. At 26, she had blossomed from a gangly teenager into a striking woman, whose graceful movements still captivated him after all these years. Her position as Chief Agricultural Officer had her dividing time between the fields and the council chambers. But she always made time to find Marcus. "Just checking the atmospheric readings," he replied, gesturing to his datapad. "The humidity levels are up another 3% from last month." Vera leaned against the railing beside him, her shoulder brushing his. "The terraforming is proceeding faster than we projected." "That's what concerns me," Marcus admitted. "Success attracts attention. Not all of it welcome." His concerns weren't unfounded. As Haven had flourished, it had attracted a steady stream of newcomers, refugees, opportunists, and traders. Most integrated peacefully, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. The original colonists who had struggled through the harshest years sometimes resented the newcomers who arrived to enjoy the fruits of their labor. More concerning were the corporate scouts who had begun appearing with increasing frequency. Just last week, representatives from Nexus Industries, an interplanetary resource conglomerate, had approached the council with partnership opportunities that sounded suspiciously like thinly veiled takeover attempts. The council meeting didn't go well, Vera said, reading his expression. "Elder Korath is considering Nexus Industries' proposal." "Damn it," Marcus muttered. "Doesn't he see what they're really after? They don't care about our community. They just want to exploit the technology now that it's proven successful." Vera's hand found his, her fingers intertwining with his own. "Your mother spoke powerfully against them. So did my father. The council remains divided." Their relationship had evolved gradually over the years from childhood friendship to something deeper and more complex. They'd never formally defined what existed between them. Such relationships between humans and Zephyrians were still uncommon, but their connection was undeniable. The physical attraction had intensified as they'd grown older, manifesting in lingering touches, private moments of intimacy, and an unspoken understanding that transcended their different biologies. "We should head back," Marcus said reluctantly. "The new irrigation extension needs calibration before sunset." As they descended the platform stairs, they encountered a group of recent arrivals, a mix of Zephyrians and other alien species Marcus didn't recognize. They stared at him with undisguised curiosity. "Is that him?" one whispered loudly. "The human who made the desert bloom." "The Watermaker," another confirmed with something like reverence. Marcus quickened his pace, uncomfortable with the attention. His invention might have transformed Haven, but he'd never sought recognition for it. "Your admirers grow daily," Vera teased as they walked toward the engineering hub. "They're not admirers. They're just curious about the novelty of a human engineer." "You underestimate your impact," Vera said seriously. "Humans are rare on Solaris Prime, and ones who revolutionize environmental engineering are even rarer. You've given people hope." Before Marcus could respond, an alarm blared across the settlement. Emergency lights flashed along the perimeter. "Perimeter breach, Eastern Sector," announced the automated system. They exchanged a glance before breaking into a run toward the eastern gate. A crowd had already gathered by the time they arrived. Through the reinforced transparent barrier, they could see a convoy of heavily armed vehicles approaching sleek corporate transports. Bearing the distinctive spiral logo of Nexus Industries, Councilwoman Rodriguez, now the senior human representative, after Marcus's mother had stepped down due to illness, approached them with a grim expression. "They're back, and they brought enforcement this time," she said. "Their regional director wants to address the full council immediately. We rejected their proposal yesterday," Vera said. "What more is there to discuss?" "I don't think they're here to negotiate anymore," Marcus replied, studying the approaching vehicles. "Those aren't diplomatic transports. They're retrofitted security carriers." That evening, as the council convened an emergency session, Marcus and Vera found themselves alone in his workshop. The tension of the day had left them both on edge, seeking comfort in each other's presence. "If Nexus Industries takes control," Vera began. "They won't," Marcus interrupted firmly. "This is our home. We built it from nothing." Vera moved closer, her crystalline eyes searching his. "Remember what Tysa told us 9 years ago about human bonds bringing strong spirit?" Marcus's pulse quickened. "I remember." "My people have a saying," she continued, her voice softening. "In times of uncertainty, bonds must be strengthened." Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. "Our bond has always been strong, Marcus. But perhaps it's time to acknowledge what we've both felt for years." As the settlement faced its greatest external threat, Marcus and Vera found themselves crossing a threshold they'd approached many times before. That night, cultural differences melted away as they discovered new dimensions to their connection, a union that would ultimately prove as transformative for Haven as any technology Marcus had ever created. Chapter 4. The corporate invasion. The Nexus Industries delegation arrived with the practiced smiles of predators. Their leader, Director Voss, was a tall Centaurian with metallic skin and cold, calculating eyes. He stood before the council chamber, flanked by security personnel whose weapons were barely concealed beneath formal attire. "Esteemed council members," Voss began, his voice smooth as polished metal, "our geological surveys have discovered something extraordinary beneath your settlement. Veins of quantum crystal, one of the rarest minerals in the galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Quantum crystal was the key component in hyperspace navigation systems, worth a fortune on the interstellar market. Nexus Industries is prepared to offer generous relocation packages to all residents, Voss continued. "New homes on a more hospitable world, financial compensation, educational opportunities." "This is our home," Councilwoman Rodriguez interrupted. "It wasn't hospitable when we arrived, but we made it so. We're not interested in relocation." Voss's smile tightened. "I understand your attachment, but consider the greater good. Quantum crystal is essential for galactic expansion. Surely you wouldn't deny progress for sentimental reasons." From his position at the back of the chamber, Marcus noticed Elder Korath, nodding subtly at Voss's words. Something about their interaction seemed rehearsed, practiced. The meeting adjourned without resolution, but the tension lingered. As the council members dispersed, Marcus pulled Vera aside. "Did you notice Korath?" he whispered. He seemed almost friendly with Voss. "I've been hearing rumors," Vera admitted. "Some of the original colonists feel they deserve more recognition and compensation for the early years of hardship." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the settlement. Marcus's communicator lit up with emergency notifications. "Water. Generator 4 is offline," he read, his blood running cold. "Pressure dropping in the eastern irrigation grid." They raced across the settlement to find chaos at the eastern water facility. Technicians scrambled around the massive generator, which now stood silent instead of emitting its usual steady hum. "What happened?" Marcus demanded, pushing through the crowd. Chief Technician Wren, a younger Zephyrian who had apprenticed under Marcus 4 years, looked up from the control panel with a grim expression. "Sabotage," he said quietly. Someone knew exactly where to plant the charges to disable the fusion core without destroying the whole facility. Marcus examined the damage. The saboteur had been precise, targeting the one subsystem that would cause catastrophic failure without an explosion that might alert security. "How long to repair?" Vera asked. "For days minimum," Marcus replied. "And that's if we have the replacement parts." "The eastern fields will die without water for that long," Vera said, her voice tight with concern. As they worked through the night to salvage what they could, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the timing was too convenient. The morning after Nexus Industries' arrival, their most productive water generator fails catastrophic ally. His suspicions deepened when Elder Korath appeared at dawn, looking far too composed for someone whose community faced an agricultural disaster. Perhaps this is a sign, Korath suggested to the gathered crowd. Nexus Industries offers us a new beginning on a world where we won't need to fight the elements daily. Or perhaps it's sabotage designed to force our hand, Marcus countered, stepping forward. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say, Elder? Korath's blue skin darkened with anger or guilt. "You accuse me, boy?" "I accuse whoever had access to the facility schematics and security codes," Marcus replied evenly. A very short list. The confrontation might have escalated further if Vera hadn't intervened, pulling Marcus away from the growing crowd. "Not here," she whispered urgently. "I found something you need to see." In the privacy of the agricultural lab, Vera activated a secure terminal. "I've been monitoring communications since Nexus Industries arrived," she explained. This was encrypted, but our systems flagged it. The screen displayed a message trail between an unnamed settlement resident and Nexus Industries representatives discussing compensation for cooperation and strategic system failures. That would demonstrate the settlement's vulnerability. "Korath," Marcus growled. "It has to be." "We can't prove it yet," Vera cautioned. "But there's more. Look at this geological survey." She pulled up another Fila-detailed scan of the ground beneath Haven. "This is from our own environmental monitoring system. Compare it to Nexus Industries' claims." Marcus studied the scans, his engineering mind quickly spotting the discrepancies. "There's no quantum crystal here," he realized. They falsified their survey. But why lie? What do they really want? The answer came to them simultaneously. The water technology. Marcus's invention had evolved far beyond its humble origins. The current generation of water generators could transform environments on a planetary scale, technology worth far more than mining rights. That evening, as they formulated a plan to expose both Nexus Industries' deception and the traitor within their community, Marcus and Vera found themselves back in his quarters. The stress of the day had left them both physically and emotionally drained. "If we lose the eastern field," Vera began. "We won't," Marcus promised, taking her hands in his. "I've got teams rerouting water from the other generators. We'll lose some yield, but nothing catastrophic." Vera moved closer, resting her forehead against his chest. "When did you become so confident? I remember a nervous 13-year-old boy, afraid to look me in the eyes." Marcus smiled, wrapping his arms around her. "I had a good teacher, a certain Zephyrian girl, who never let me doubt myself." Their embrace shifted, comfort giving way to something more urgent. The night they had shared after Nexus Industries' arrival had changed something fundamental between them. Physical intimacy had deepened their connection in ways neither had anticipated. "Zephyrian bonding is different from human relationships," Vera murmured against his neck. "For us, physical union creates a permanent link. My people would consider us life mates now. And how do you consider us?" Marcus asked, his voice husky with emotion. Vera's crystalline eyes met his vulnerable yet certain. "Essential to each other. Two parts of a whole." As they surrendered again to the magnetic pole between them, neither could have known that their union would create something unprecedented anew, life that would bridge their two species and ultimately become the key to saving everything they had. Built. Chapter 5. The revelation. Vera stared at the medical scanner in disbelief. The device, typically reliable for Zephyrian physiology, kept displaying an error message she'd never seen before. "Something's wrong with this scanner," she muttered, adjusting settings. Dr. Crystalline, the settlement's chief medical officer, and one of the few Zephyrians who had studied both human and Zephyrian biology, gently took the device from her hands. "There's nothing wrong with the scanner, Vera," she said softly. "It's simply detecting something unprecedented." "What do you mean?" Dr. Crystalline's expression was a mixture of scientific fascination and genuine concern. "You're pregnant." "That's impossible," Vera replied automatically. "Human Zephyrian reproduction isn't biologically compatible." "That's what all our textbooks say," Dr. Crystalline agreed. "And yet, here we are." The scanner shows a hybrid embryo approximately 4 weeks old. Vera's mind reeled. Her intimate relationship with Marcus had begun just over a month ago after years of growing attraction. The timing aligned perfectly, but everything she knew about xenobiology insisted this couldn't happen. "Does Marcus know?" Dr. Crystalline asked gently. "No one knows." "I just came in because I've been feeling unusual," Vera replied, her hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen. "How is this possible?" "I have a theory," Dr. Crystalline said, lowering her voice. "The environmental changes caused by the water. Generators have affected everything on Solaris's prime. Plants, animals, possibly even our own biology. We've been drinking synthesized water for 9 years. Before Vera could process this information fully, her communicator chimed with an urgent message from Marcus. "Meet me at the workshop. Visitors at the north gate." At the northern perimeter, Marcus stood with Councilwoman Rodriguez facing a group of familiar, rust-colored nomads. Chief Solarn, now visibly older but still commanding, led the Solari delegation. "The Watermaker returns," Solarn greeted Vera as she approached. "Your bond with the human inventor has strengthened. I see it in your aura." Vera felt her cheeks warm, wondering if the perceptive chief could somehow detect her condition. "Chief Solarn," Marcus said, "you mentioned Nexus Industries' activities in other regions." The chief's expression darkened. "They came with promises of prosperity, left destruction in their wake. 5 Solari clans displaced, sacred grounds desecrated for their mining. They claim to have found quantum crystal beneath Haven," Councilwoman Rodriguez explained. Lies. Solarn spat. "They seek your water-making. The human's gift is worth more than any mineral." Marcus and Vera exchanged glances. The Solari's intelligence confirmed their suspicions. "We need to expose them," Marcus said. "And the traitor working with them." Elder Korath, Vera replied. "We have evidence of his communications with Nexus Industries." Chief Solarn nodded grimly. "The Solari will stand with Haven. We bring knowledge of desert defenses. Traps that can disable their machines without harming people, as they formulated." Their plan. Vera pulled Marcus aside, her heart pounding. "I need to tell you something," she began, but was interrupted by the settlement-wide alarm system. Emergency Council session called by Director Voss announced the automated voice. All council members and department heads required to attend. "It's happening now," Marcus realized. "They're making their move." "Marcus, wait," Vera tried again. But he was already moving, mind focused on the confrontation ahead. "Tell me after," he said, squeezing her hand. "We need to spring our trap before they spring theirs." In his workshop, Marcus retrieved his original prototype, the small water generator he'd built at 13. He'd modified it significantly, installing a hidden recording device and a specialized scanner designed to analyze and expose falsified geological data. The council chamber was tense when they arrived. Director Voss stood at the center, flanked by more security personnel than before. Elder Korath sat closest to him, separated from the other council members. As I was explaining, Voss continued smoothly. The recent unfortunate technical difficulties with your water system demonstrate the precariousness of your situation here. Nexus Industries can offer stability. Before we continue, Marcus interrupted, stepping forward with his prototype. I'd like to demonstrate something. Voss's eyes narrowed. We're in the middle of important negotiations, young man. This will only take a moment, Marcus insisted. After all, my water technology is central to these discussions, isn't it? He activated the device, which hummed to life. This is where it all began. My first prototype built from salvage when I was 13. It doesn't look like much, but it changed everything for Haven. As he spoke, the hidden scanner in the device was mapping the chamber, analyzing the geological composition beneath them and comparing it to Nexus Industries' claims. Fascinating, Voss said with thinly veiled impatience. But as I was saying, the thing about this device, Marcus continued, undeterred, is that it doesn't just generate water. The latest versions can analyze soil composition, detect mineral deposits, he paused meaningfully, and identify liars. He pressed a button and a holographic display appeared above the device showing two geological scans side by side. On the left, Nexus Industries survey showing quantum crystal deposits. On the right, a real-time scan showing no such deposits existed. Marcus's voice hardened. You never wanted to mine quantum crystal. You wanted my water technology. Murmurs erupted around the chamber. Voss's composed facade cracked slightly. And you had help? Marcus continued, activating another function that displayed the encrypted communications. They discovered messages from someone inside Haven, who was promised special treatment in exchange for sabotage. All eyes turned to Elder Korath, whose blue skin had paled to a sickly gray. This is absurd, Korath sputtered. I've served this community since its founding, which makes your betrayal all the worse, Councilwoman Rodriguez said grimly. Voss's demeanor changed instantly. With a sharp gesture to his security team, he drew a weapon. Enough games. The water technology is coming with us, one way or another. The Nexus Industries security personnel moved to secure the exits, weapons drawn. What they hadn't anticipated was the Solari warriors who had quietly positioned themselves throughout the chamber, disguised as ordinary settlers. As chaos erupted, Vera pulled Marcus behind a council bench. I need to tell you something important, she insisted, her voice urgent despite the commotion around them. Now, Marcus asked incredulously as energy blasts scorched the wall above them. Yes, now, Vera replied, taking his hand and placing it on her abdomen. I'm pregnant, Marcus. With your child, something that's supposed to be biologically impossible. For a moment, the battle around them seemed to fade away as Marcus processed her words. Then a new determination hardened his features. Then we have even more reason to win this fight, he said, squeezing her hand before turning back to the conflict with renewed purpose. Get down, Marcus shouted as energy blasts tore through the council chamber. He pulled Vera behind a fallen table, his body instinctively shielding her hand, now their unborn child. The revelation of her pregnancy still echoed in his mind. Impossible, yet miraculous. A human Cephrean child, their child. The thought filled him with a fierce protectiveness he'd never experienced before. Across the chamber, the Solari warriors engaged Nexus Industries security forces with surprising effectiveness. Their primitive-looking weapons discharged localized electromagnetic pulses that disabled the mercenaries' energy weapons without causing permanent harm. We need to get to the control hub, Marcus said, mapping an escape route in his mind. If they can't take the technology by force, they might try to destroy it out of spite. A shadow fell over them. Director Voss stood above, his metallic features contorted with rage, weapon aimed directly at Vera. The water technology, he hissed. Hand over the schematics or the female dies. Marcus tensed, calculating odds, distances, possibilities. Before he could move, Councilwoman Rodriguez tackled Voss from behind. The weapon discharged, blasting a hole in the ceiling as the two grappled. "Go!" Rodriguez shouted. "Protect the generators." They didn't need to be told twice. Marcus grabbed Vieira's hand and they sprinted from the chamber into the settlement's main thoroughfare. Outside, chaos reigned. Nexus Industries' reinforcements had breached the perimeter and were advancing toward the central plaza. "This way," Vieira urged, pulling Marcus toward a maintenance tunnel that would lead them to the control hub undetected. As they ran, Marcus activated his communicator. "Ren, status of the water generators." "Main facility secure," came the technician's voice. "But we've got hostiles approaching Generator 3, and Elder Korath is missing." "Korath knows all the access codes," Vieira realized with horror. They emerged from the tunnel near the agricultural sector. The fields that had once been barren desert now flourished with crops. Living proof of what human ingenuity and alien knowledge could accomplish together. Marcus wouldn't let Nexus Industries destroy it. There, Vieira pointed to a group of figures moving stealthily toward Generator 3, Nexus Industries operatives, led by Elder Korath. "We can cut them off through the hydroponic gardens," Marcus said. As they changed direction, a familiar figure appeared ahead. Chief Solarn, accompanied by several Solari warriors. "Watermaker," the chief greeted grimly. "The betrayer leads enemies to your life-giving machines." "We need to stop them," Marcus explained. "But they're armed, and we're not." Chief Solarn smiled, revealing teeth filed to points a traditional Solari modification. "We have set the desert's teeth against them." He handed Marcus a small controller. "Your signal will activate our traps." The hydroponic gardens offered a shortcut to Generator 3, a maze of transparent tubes and tanks, where plants grew in nutrient-rich water instead of soil. As they navigated through the humid facility, Vieira suddenly stumbled, her face paling. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, immediately concerned. "Just dizzy for a moment," she assured him. "Dr. Crystalline said it's normal in the early stages, especially with a hybrid pregnancy." Marcus's heart clenched at the reminder of her condition. "Maybe you should find somewhere safe." "Don't even suggest it." Vieira cut him off, her crystalline eyes flashing. "This is our home, our future. I'm fighting for it." They reached the exit just as Korath's group approached Generator 3. Marcus activated the controller Chief Solarn had given him. Instantly, the ground beneath the Nexus Industries operatives shifted. What had appeared to be solid earth collapsed into fine sand, trapping them waist-deep. Simultaneously, hidden nozzles sprayed a sticky resin that hardened on contact with air, effectively immobilizing them. Elder Korath, however, had lagged behind the group and avoided the trap. Seeing his companions captured, he turned to flee directly toward Marcus and Vieira's position. "Traitor!" Vieira called out, stepping into his path. Korath skidded to a halt, his eyes wild with desperation. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "Nexus Industries promised to make me governor of the entire sector once they control the water technology. You would betray your own people for power." Marcus asked, disgusted. "My people," Korath spat. "Half of Haven are newcomers who never suffered through the early years. They don't deserve the prosperity your invention brought." "That's not for you to decide," Vieira said firmly. Korath's hand moved to a concealed weapon, but before he could draw it, a Solari dart struck his shoulder. He collapsed instantly unconscious, but alive, with Korath neutralized and the Nexus Industries operatives trapped. They hurried to Generator 3. Inside, Marcus quickly verified that the system remained intact. "We've stopped them here," he said, but the fighting continues throughout the settlement. His communicator chimed with an urgent alert from the central plaza. Director Voss had escaped Councilwoman Rodriguez and was rallying his remaining forces for a final push toward the main water facility. He's desperate now, Vera observed. Cornered predators are the most dangerous. Marcus nodded grimly. We need to end this decisively. He studied the facility's control panel, an idea forming. The water generators don't just produce water, they can manipulate atmospheric conditions on a localized scale. What are you thinking? Vera asked, recognizing the look of inspiration on his face. A demonstration, Marcus replied, fingers flying over the controls. Something to show Nexus Industries exactly what they're dealing with and why they should never threaten us again. As they hurried toward the central plaza, Marcus explained his plan. Vera's eyes widened with understanding, then narrowed with determination. It's risky, she said. So was building a water generator from salvage. Marcus replied with a grim smile. So was falling in love with an alien girl. So is bringing a hybrid child into the universe. Risk is what humans do best. Vera squeezed his hand. Then let's show them what humanity is capable of when protecting what they love. Together, they headed toward the final confrontation, where the fate of Haven and their future family would be decided. Chapter 7. The Storm's Eye. The Central Plaza of Haven had transformed into a battlefield. Nexus Industries mercenaries exchanged fire with colonists and Solari warriors, while Director Voss barked orders from behind a makeshift barricade near the main water facility. Marcus and Vera observed from the roof of a nearby building, assessing the situation. He's desperate, Marcus noted. Look at how they're positioned. They're preparing for a final assault on the facility. As if confirming his assessment, Voss's voice boomed through an amplifier. This is your final warning. Surrender the water technology, or we'll reduce the settlement to ash. To emphasize his point, one of his mercenaries fired a high-powered energy weapon at a nearby structure, causing it to collapse in flames. He'll destroy everything we've built rather than leave empty-handed, Vera said grimly. Marcus's jaw tightened. Not if I can help it. He activated his communicator. Ren, are you at the main control hub? Yes, sir, came the technician's voice. Standing by for your instructions. Execute Protocol Atmospheric Authorization Chen Delta 9. Protocol Atmospheric. But that's never been tested at full scale. Now, Ren, Marcus insisted, and evacuate all personnel from the hub. This could get dangerous. Vera looked at him questioningly. Protocol Atmospherica theoretical application of the water generators I've been developing, Marcus explained. Instead of just extracting water from the atmosphere, it can temporarily manipulate weather patterns on a localized scale. You're going to make it rain? Vera asked, surprised. Marcus's smile was grim. Something like that. Within minutes, the humming of the water generators intensified throughout the settlement. The sound rose to a pitch that made teeth vibrate and skin prickle. Above the central plaza, the air began to shimmer visibly. Director Voss noticed the change, his metallic eyes narrowing with suspicion. What trickery is this? He demanded. The air temperature dropped suddenly. Clouds formed with unnatural speed directly above the plaza, swirling into a tight vortex. Nexus Industries mercenaries looked up in alarm, some abandoning their positions. Your ground? Voss shouted. It's just an atmospheric disturbance. The first drops fell not water, but a thick amber liquid that adhered to whatever it touched. The specialized compound synthesized by the modified generators was harmless to living tissue but instantly disabled energy weapons and electronic equipment. Voss's forces found their weapons suddenly useless, their communications jammed. A panic spread through their ranks. Marcus and Vera emerged from their hiding place, accompanied by Councilwoman Rodriguez and Chief Solarn. They approached the now defenseless Nexus Industries director. This demonstration, Marcus announced loudly enough for all to hear, is just a fraction of what our technology can do. We can create water in a desert, or we can create conditions no invader could withstand. Voss's composure finally cracked. You're bluffing. This is just a localized effect, is it? Marcus challenged. The same principles that allow us to extract water from air can be applied on a planetary scale. We could make this entire region uninhabitable to your species with the flip of a switch. It wasn't entirely truth. The system couldn't yet operate on that scale, but Voss didn't need to know that. The Galactic Council will hear of this, Voss sputtered. Yes, they will, Councilwoman. Rodriguez stepped forward. They'll hear how Nexus Industries attempted to steal proprietary technology through sabotage and violence. They'll hear how you falsified geological surveys and bribed a council member. She held up a data crystal. All documented and ready for transmission to council authorities. Defeated Voss and his forces were disarmed and detained. As the synthetic rain dissipated, the colonists of Haven emerged from their shelters cautiously at first. Then, with growing celebration as word of their victory spread. Epilogue, New Beginnings 7 months later. Haven Colony now officially recognized by the Galactic Council as the independent world of New Solaris was flourishing like never before. The attempted invasion had united the community, healing the divisions between original colonists and newcomers. Elder Korith, after a public trial, had been sentenced to work in the community garden, fitting punishment for one who had nearly destroyed what others had worked so hard to build. Under the watchful eyes of Solari guardians, he slowly began the long process of redemption in the newly constructed council chamber. Representatives from all community factions, human, Zephyrian, Solari, and other species who had made New Solaris their home gathered to ratify their first formal charter. Marcus, now serving as Chief Technology Officer, sat beside Vera, whose pregnancy was clearly visible beneath her ceremonial robes. As Chief Agricultural Officer, she had integrated Solari seed knowledge with Marcus's water technology to create farming methods that were being studied throughout the sector. The motion to establish New Solaris as a technology research center is unanimously approved, announced Councilwoman Chun, Marcus's mother, who had recovered from her illness to become the settlement's first elected leader. After the meeting, Marcus and Vera walked through the flourishing gardens that surrounded their home. Modest dwelling, despite Marcus's status as the settlement's most celebrated citizen. Have you decided on a name? Caius asked, his hand resting gently on Vera's rounded abdomen. I've been thinking about Solarn, she replied. It means bringer of water in ancient Solari. Chief Solarn said it would be an honor. Marcus smiled. Solarn Chen. I like it. The first human Zephyrian child, Vera mused. Dr. Crystalline says he's developing perfectly a miracle of adaptation. Just like his parents, Marcus said softly. Just like this place. They paused at the edge of the settlement where a small monument had been erected. It displayed Marcus's original water generator, the crude prototype he'd built at 13 from salvaged parts. A plaque beneath it read, "From humble beginnings, great things grow." Did you ever imagine, Vera asked, when you were tinkering with salvage all those years ago, that it would lead to this? Marcus shook his head. I just wanted to help to make things better. That's what I love about humans, Vera said, leaning against him. You never accept limitations. Where others see impossibility, you see opportunity. As the twin suns of Solaris Prime set on the horizon, casting golden light across the once barren landscape now teeming with life, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a lonely boy building contraptions from junk to a man standing on the threshold of fatherhood, defending a community he'd helped create. The water generators hummed in the background, a sound that had once been novel, but was now as familiar as a heartbeat to the people of New Solaris. A sound that represented not just survival, but prosperity. Not just ingenuity, but hope. 4 months later, Solan Chen was born a healthy boy with his father's bright blue eyes and his mother's crystalline skin. His birth was celebrated throughout New Solaris as a symbol of what could be achieved when different worlds came together. And as Marcus held his son for the first time, he understood that his greatest invention wasn't the water generator that had saved a dying colony. It was the future he'd helped create, a future where the boundaries between species, between worlds, between what was possible and impossible, continued to dissolve like morning mist under the rising suns.